The movie Pearl Harbor was released May 25th, 2001. The film was directed by Michael Bay and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and Michael Bay. The three top stars were Ben Affleck as he played Captain Ralph McCauley, Josh Hartnett played Captain Danny Walker, and Kate Beckinsale played Nurse Lieutenant Evelyn Johnson. The movie was based on true historical events, but none of the other parts of the movie had no real historical value, like the love triangle going on. The movie was based on two lifelong friends and how they entered the Air Force and eventually World War II. One of the men, Ralph, wanted to enter the war early, so he joined Europe alongside England's Royal Air Force. Ralph was presumed dead after a battle, and Danny and his friend and Ralph's girl, which was Evelyn Johnson, the nurse, they decided to start a relationship. Later, however, Ralph returned back and was disappointed and had a fight with his friend Danny after finding out he took his girl. The next day, the attack on Pearl Harbor occurred, and this was a very sad attack, and it was portrayed throughout the movie. After these two were being rewarded for their courageous efforts during the attack, they eventually went on a mission in Japan to bomb Japan's stronghold in Tokyo, where Danny eventually died. Ralph became the father when he came back of Danny's child, and eventually started dating Evelyn. Although this movie had a great plotline, there were many historical inaccuracies that came alongside this film. Well, to begin, Ralph was in the United States Air Force, and at the time, if you were in the U.S. Air Force, you were not allowed to join the British Royal Air Force. And during his time fighting, you could see him in his plane, and he was flying a Polish fighter squadron plane. And this was inaccurate because he was in the British Royal Air Force. Another historical inaccuracy in this film was the Japanese air bombs were intentionally trying to aim for medical centers and hospitals, when in fact they were not intentionally trying to aim for these centers and hospitals. And in the movie, it's depicted that many hospital members and staff were killed, but in fact there was only actually one member of the hospital that actually died. Another historical inaccuracy in this movie was the jeep at the golf course where the base was being under attack. This jeep was not in the right time period, as in the Korean War is when this jeep was manufactured. This jeep is known as an M38. Overall, this movie was full with a bunch of other historical inaccuracies. This was just a few of them. The attack on Pearl Harbor dated back on December 7th, 1941. It was a surprise military airstrike by Japan during the midst of World War II. The Japanese attacked the United States naval base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii territory in the morning. This attack was very deadly. 2,403 Americans died, and 1,178 were wounded. Along this was the destruction of 18 ships, including 5 being battleships. Japan decided this attack was necessary, as they wanted to move into the Dutch East Indies and Malaya to conquer territories that could provide important natural resources such as oil and rubber. This attack on Pearl Harbor led to Franklin D. Roosevelt's most famous speech, the infamous speech. Immediately after this speech on December 8th, 1941, Congress declared war on Japan, and the U.S. entered World War II. I believe a key hero of the attack on Pearl Harbor that was missing from the movie was Samuel Fuka. Samuel Fuka became the Arizona's senior surviving officer after a bomb detonated his ship's ammunition magazine, killing over 1,000 men. As burned and maimed sailors poured onto the deck, Fuka ignored gunfire from passing aircraft and calmly led efforts to evacuate his sinking ship. I believe these would have done many of the heroes in Pearl Harbor justice by portraying more of them, because Doris Miller was one of the only heroes portrayed here. It would have complemented the long scene of the attack by adding another character to go along with it that was there pushing and struggling to help his men. Overall, I enjoy this film. Other than its love plot, it had a good amount of history behind it. I expected much of the movie to be really covering the attack on Pearl Harbor and the consequences that came along with it, but was kind of disappointed to learn it was mostly about a love triangle, and World War II and Pearl Harbor was just underlying within the love plot. Either way, I believe that the movie did a great job of depicting the attack on Pearl Harbor and the Tokyo airstrike through its visual effects, and I also enjoyed the part where the African-American male, Doris Miller, was actually depicted as a cook, but then eventually was shooting down the Japanese aircrafts during the attack. I believe this movie was quite great overall, but the love plot does get a little bit boring after a while. I would definitely recommend this movie to you guys, although it does have some historical inaccuracies, it's hardly noticeable, and I would have to let you guys know it's not mostly about the attack on Pearl Harbor.